Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Hey Big Geeks, it's Friday, it's 5pm, and this is the podcast that you can use to wind yourself down ready for the weekend over a pint. Bradley, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I was just thinking then about what you could use this podcast for on the Friday 5pm.
A relaxing bath?
A relaxing bath. What could you do? Yeah, these days you're not going to be on a train probably, so you could be in a bath. You could be sat at your desk in your bedroom, living room, if you live in a studio apartment, doing your your job that you hate. I think
the idea is you finish the job,
exactly.
Then you listen to us. Well, I'm saying
it can lift your experience of the world, hopefully, Johnny. Because I don't know what week are we in now to pandemic. It must be.
We're into the thousands.
Fucking hell! It feels like it, certainly. I don't know, mate. I've started having strange lucid dreams about stuff. Like last night, I don't often remember my dreams, but last night I remember my dream. I said I wasn't going to go on a tangent this soon, but I am going to now. Because it's such a weird, specific dream, right? I had a dream that all plastics that were the colour red, so red plastic, had suddenly become outlawed because it was poisonous. So anything that was made of red plastic was being recalled and destroyed. I don't know why. I don't know what it was about the colour red. I was watching.
What is the colour of danger, Brad? Maybe you're onto something. Maybe we've got a Will Smith concussion style film in this,
right? But it was heartbreaking because I was thinking about, in my dream, I was like sat watching a TV and all the news coverage of, the plastic things that are red that were being destroyed, and I was watching this particular newsreel of men in hazmat suits picking out all of the red Lego pieces out of sets. And I was just really heartbroken. And then I started to think about, pizza delivery motorbikes, the classic Honda C90, which is white and red, that I remember from my childhood. And thinking about all of those that are going to get crushed because they've got red fairings on them that are made of plastic. And my whole world started to spiral. I just thought, I don't even like red, but I was thinking about all of the things that are red plastic, Johnny, that we're going to get.
That is a twist. You don't even like the colour red. I assumed it was like your second favourite colour after orange. It's pretty close to orange.
I mean, I love orange. Orange is in my top 3 colours, probably. But red, nowhere near it. But it's so weird. I don't know what it's about. But what I was thinking, Johnny, was what would be your pandemic nightmare if you woke up? I even woke up this morning, and for a second, I thought it was real, that everything that was red plastic had been destroyed. What would be your thing that you'd be totally terrified to wake up and think it's been destroyed because of the pandemic or whatever, or it's a new pandemic?
I mean, I think if we found out that carbohydrate was killing us, because that would rule out beer and bread.
Oh my God. But you could, that would be terrifying. I think cheese equally would also be like, I would be like, what's the point, man? What's the point anymore? No cheese, no carbs. I'm out of here. That's it.
Yeah, cheese sandwiches. That's what I have every day for lunch in lockdown, basically. That or instant ramen. And I'm a bit worried about my salt intake as a result.
Blimey.
But that would That would break me.
Well,
I
was going to say, I don't think you need to worry about that this week with your exercise regime.
Yes, indeed. So good segue, Brad. We're getting good at this.
Right?
We're getting professional.
Almost.
So this week I've got two things that I've done this week. We'll start with the insane amount of cycling that I've been doing. So this week's video was our celebratory homebrew episode, in which we decided to brew a beer that had 1 IBU for every 1,000 of our 100,000 subscribers. And I then spent the rest of this week delivering bottles to people that helped us get to 100k. So there's breweries, celebrities, there's some Patreons, there's some pro Patreons that I've delivered it to, some friends of mine, just to get them to give us like a 1 or 2 minute review that we can put to the end of next week's video. And that involved more cycling than I've done. Well, more cycling on a fixie, which is a very different discipline, because when you're stopping and starting on a fixie at a traffic light constantly, it's much more knackering than ragging around the fields. So I got into bed last night feeling fine and woke up this morning and could barely move my legs. And I only did about 40 miles.
40 miles on a fixie? Fixie 40, that's a lot
but
of
over
miles.
2 days.
Jesus. Why did you choose to use your fixie? And is this the fixie that had the pink wheels?
This is the fixie with the pink wheels. It's called the Admiral, but I forget why.
The Admiral. Nice.
The Admiral. No, I didn't use my racing bike, because if you use the racing bike, then you have to get into the Lycra, and then you're a dickhead cycling around central London in Lycra on a racing bike.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you can go
I hate
slow
the
on a racing bike,
of...
can you? You can go a bit slower. You don't have to wear the Lycra.
You can go slow, but like I'd need to, like, the pedals are special clip-in pedals, so they fix you in, so you have to wear the special shoes. Yeah. Then if you're wearing the special shoes with jeans, I mean, it's a whole fashion nightmare.
Damn.
Most of the reason that we have mammals, middle-aged men in Lycra, is because you look ridiculous in anything. I mean, you look ridiculous off the bike in Lycra, but once you get on the bike, if you're in jeans, you look ridiculous. So it's tough to be a middle-aged white man, Brad. It
is. You've just made me think back to one of my first bosses had a Lycra kink, so he was like very sexually aroused by Lycra.
How did you find this out?
He told me. We were quite good friends. We used to go drinking in the pub. And
so he just really liked like 80s dance.
Yeah.
People.
I think probably his all-time greatest spank bank sort of thing. He never said this, but I imagine it would be like that Eric. Oh no, they're not even wearing it. I was thinking the Eric Prydz video where "Cool on Me." Do you remember that dance video? No, the girls are wearing Lycra, aren't they? Yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I was thinking more of like Fame.
Yeah, I mean that video is kind of basically like sort of Fame type thing, isn't it? They're all kind of gyrating 80s neon Lycra people with a very sort of Joe Wick. Thinking back, sort of Joe Wicks looking guy wearing very short shorts that's leading the dance routine.
You've got to wonder how Phil Collins felt about that video.
Yeah,
it's very off-brand for him.
I heard that he had a Lycra kink as well, so he was loving it.
He was one of the girls. Anyway. So, I've spent most of this week cycling. We'll get back to the video in a minute. But before we get too deep into, Brad's dream diary, I should say that this week we also have the next Bubble episode going live. Nice. So that goes live midday on Sunday.
Tell us a bit about it.
That is an interview.
Sorry, Johnny. You were going to tell us a bit about it. Tell us a bit about it, Johnny.
I was on a roll. It is an interview with Alex of French Guy Cooking.
Amazing.
So we chat about the YouTube game, as he calls it. We talk about his introduction to YouTube, his time when our paths first crossed, when he came 3rd or 4th in the Find a Food Tube Star with Jamie Oliver, and the incredible journey that he's been on since, because he is my favourite YouTuber in the world, and now I'm lucky enough to call him a friend as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice podcast, and you can see hear Rob's mind being continually blown by how little money you make on YouTube. So it's worth it for that.
Nice. Yeah. We love Alex. Alex is an awesome dude.
That goes live Sunday at midday. Should we talk about the video from this week then?
I guess we better, right? I mean, it was kind of a big one.
It was a big one, and it was one again that I sort of had to tackle mostly on my own.
Yeah.
But you had your fingerprints all over it by the end. You did a proper directorial debut.
I did.
In the changes at the end.
I did.
Which really helped move it along. So, yeah, we've brewed... spoiler alert. We've brewed a black IPA, let's be honest, not a red IPA.
Johnny, it's a very, very dark rouge, mate. Let's stick to that story.
When we do the tasting, we'll just have to shine a torch underneath it at all points, just out of shot. Because it's definitely red when you hold it up to the light.
Yeah, I don't think we need a torch. I think we need like a lighthouse or something to shine through it, because it's pretty dark.
It is pretty dark. But yeah, I mean, it was really interesting to use extract, which was, each time we do these homebrew videos, we try to introduce something new to learn. And this month was about IBUs, but mostly it was about the use of extract, which is kind of seen as like a macro brewer thing to do. It's kind of seen as cheating. But some of the best beers in the world use extract, including Pliny the Elder, for a start.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
So we wanted to use... Ain't nothing wrong with that. And we wanted to show that there's nothing wrong with it. It's a really efficient and really clean way of bittering your beer. And you can then just use all those beautiful hops at the end for the aroma and for the flavour. So it's an interesting video. I learned so much doing it. Again, huge shout out to Malt Miller. They don't sponsor us or anything. They give us lots of kit and advice and the ingredients, but they're not a full-on sponsor. So I can happily say... independently, they are the best homebrew shop I've ever come across, and huge thanks to them for all the advice in us putting that recipe together. Although, if them or Sean could have pointed out that we were going to end up with a black IPA, that would have been great. But
I mean, that was a malt issue, wasn't it? Like you could change the malt bill and get away from the darkness a little bit. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, once we tasted it, we don't put out the recipe with the first episode. We always put it out with the second once we've tasted it and do the tweaks. So I already know what we're going to do to the malt bill to tweak it, and there's a couple of other ideas I have just to get that beer perfect for when you guys want to brew it.
Nice. Yeah, with Malt Miller, they're always incredibly helpful, aren't they? And they even like mix up your malt grains for you and everything, right? They're kind of just awesome.
They do, and I always get a little note like, "Hi Johnny," or let me know when you're packing this, and they always slip a goodie in. So I've got lots of little things that they slip going, "Hey, try this in your next homebrew," and I haven't found a place for it yet, but I've got some cool things we can start slipping into some homebrews as a surprise as we go into a big year of home brewing that we've got planned, and we'll actually be able to announce what I keep teasing constantly in a couple of weeks. Comments, Bradley, did you find anything exciting?
Yeah, so I got a few comments. I got one from our Discord forum, which is our one of our Patreon subscriber perks, which is a sort of really brilliant community on a private Discord forum, and it was from Ian Williams, one of our patrons. He said, Jesus, I did not need to open this video on my other screen during my Zoom meeting. Terrifying giant Brad face. So yeah, I was kind of terrified.
The first couple of seconds is it's almost like fish-eyed. You're that close to the lens.
I was a bit too close. This is what happens, Johnny, when you don't... My camera that I'm using while we're in separated from each other is a Fuji X-T3, which is a kick-ass camera. Brilliant stills, brilliant video camera, but it doesn't have a tilty, flippy screen. So it's only got a tilty screen. Hence, I couldn't see my composition, how to frame myself.
You couldn't see just how close you'd got.
No, so I was just sort of getting right down the barrel of the lens because I knew I'd be on camera, and I was using a 23mm lens, so I knew I was going to be quite wide. But yeah, I was way closer than I thought I was going to be.
I mean, I do agree with Ian Williams. It was quite a shock when you sent that footage over to me and I opened it up. I was a bit like, whoa. I mean, but you have very good skin, Bradley.
Yeah, it's all right?
Very good skin, yeah.
Should I tell you my secret?
So moist. It's drinking water?
Well, I drink water, obviously. There's water in beer, right?
Yeah, about 90%.
Okay, so I drink water. And I don't wash my face with soap a lot. I have very hot, steamy.
You should never wash your face with soap, Bradley.
Well, I think a lot of people do, and I think they strip a lot of their oils out of their skin.
Yeah, you do. So you've got to use special stuff.
No, I don't use anything, mate. I just occasionally, I'd say not anything. I will use it maybe once a week or something on my face, just my face. Everything else gets lathered up, but my face, hot, steamy shower. opens up all the pores, get everything out, and then splash my face with ice cold water when I get out the shower. That's why I look like what I look like, I reckon.
So, Bradley,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but I have two things to say. One is everybody's skin is different, of course.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if any kind of manscaping company comes to get sponsored by us, we're going to have to go back and edit that out and just put you going, I love all manscaping products.
Yeah.
I rely on them.
Well, so,
yeah, cool.
Okay. I mean, so I had quite a few comments. We had a nice...
good edit there. We had a weird... No, it was nice.
the last live show we did, I got kind of totally bombarded in the comments by a few individuals that were...
Yeah, we got flash mobbed by a hen.
Yeah, it was weird. And they were just sort of saying that they thought I was sexy and stuff, which, you know, you'd think...
Well, you are.
Well, you'd think it was flattering, but I just felt a little bit... It just freaked me out, basically, mate. I just felt I had a little bit of a wobble, which I'm sure was evident to anyone watching it. I was just sort of clammed up a bit and went a bit red. But
which is what the male race inflicts on women every single
yeah,
day. So.
Yeah, I felt pretty objectified, to be honest. So I was like, yeah, this ain't cool. But anyway, why did I start talking about that? Oh yeah, afterwards, people in our Discord forum were so lovely about it. So I just wanted to say thanks, guys and girls. You know, that support afterwards, people could see I was a little bit under attack. And the Discord was really lovely. So. Thanks for all your support, everyone, and it did make me feel a bit better after it because, you know, week on week we put ourselves out on the internet, don't we, Johnny? And you know, I'm a bit of a wally. Like I can say stuff that I don't really mean, or you know, this stuff's on the internet forever. So sometimes I get a little bit anxious about what I might have said or done or whatever. But you know, it was nice to be reassured that I'm not a bad guy. And that people still like me. So thanks Discord.
And a thanks from me as well, because yeah, it did shock Brad, and it kind of shocked me, and we'll take some steps to moderate a bit better. That was a really big live stream. There was about, I think, 300-400 people on there constantly. 400. So it was more comments than we expected, and I couldn't keep up with all the trolling that was going on. But yeah, we really appreciate that you guys dealt with it really nicely in the comments and stuck with us, and then yeah, checked on Brad afterwards. That was really nice.
Yeah, super nice. And that was the thing really that was, you know, I was getting harangued in the comments, but also people had my back as well, which was real nice to see. So you know, I think we picked up, like you say, a hen do or just a few drunk girls, to be honest. But, you know, it was nice to see our regulars saying, you know, what are you on about? This is all about the beer. Just leave Brad alone and all the rest of it. So, you know, I think we've built such a great community that it was, you know, it was quite reassuring to see that happening as well on a live show.
Yeah. And the live show, you know, was a huge success other than that as well. So huge thanks to everybody that participated normally, because I've had endless messages from viewers and from Beak and from Cave Direct who just thought that it was the most amazing show. And a lot of that's down to Robin, who was such a great host.
Yeah.
But obviously down to everyone in the comments as well, keeping it going, keeping it fresh. And we've got our next one lined up for the 9th of April,
nice.
I believe.
Nice.
With Pahala.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some silly ass beers in there. It could get a little bit drunken on this side of the camera, like they used to back in lockdown when we didn't have so much work to get back to.
Yeah, the beers were stellar, weren't they? On I think they were some of the best beers we've had from Beak there. I particularly liked the pills. I thought that was fucking awesome. I could drink a lot of that.
It's a magic beer, that one.
It was a shame
really
to know
good.
that was the only batch they've made. You know, you kind of hope that these sort of when you taste a beer like that, you hope that it's a regular thing. That you know, there's another tank of it coming. Don't worry, don't panic. There's going to be more soon. And you know, hearing from Robin saying that no, that was it. We've just brewed we haven't got the tank space. That was it. You know, kind of shocking. Obviously, they're going to make it again, but I was like, damn, I want to be able to buy this all the time. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are going to make it again. They said that it's in the brewing schedule, but their only core beer is Parade, I think.
Yeah.
So And also, lagers tie up your tank for so long that you really need to know it's going to shift. In the time that it's in there, you could probably release 2 or even 3 New England IPAs.
Yeah.
So that's a struggle. If you love lager, buy it whenever you see it.
That's it.
Keep reassuring brewers that it's a thing they can make money from.
And I think we should start a Kickstarter campaign for them to buy a dedicated lagering tank. So we can. I mean, how great would that be if you could go there and know that you could get a tank fresh lager on your visit?
That would be a lovely addition, wouldn't it? Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool. So my comment from the video,
yes.
On a completely different topic, really from how amazing the lager was from the live show, was from Ben Weidman, who said, "Remember a decade ago when every West Coast brewer was bragging on their IPA label about how many IBUs they had? This was a lovely nostalgic video for me." And we had a couple of comments along this lines about people talking about when IBUs were sort of the measure of quality. It wasn't grams per litre of hops. It was basically how early you added them to the boil was what you were bragging about.
Yeah.
And that sort of reached its logical conclusion with Macella 1000 IBU, which wasn't a great beer, but it didn't taste like 1000 IBUs by any stretch of the imagination. But it's, for me, it's a real shame that bitterness has disappeared. For me, it's one of the things that marks a beer apart from, from meads and ciders and stuff, particularly on the wild end. That hint of bitterness is really vital to what a beer is and adds structure to it, so it finishes big. So all the New England IPAs I love probably have a decent whack of bitterness, like 40, 50 IBUs. That's where I like my New England bitterness to sit.
I agree, and I think what was nice about that comment from Ben was that idea of nostalgia taking him back to the sort of West Coast style of IPAs, which for me and you, I know were kind of our gateway beers that got us into Craft Beer Channel. Really, let's be honest. So I think it's a real nice full circle to be brewing something that is nostalgic like that. That to sort of celebrate the point what we've got to and look back at where we came from. It's just a nice little circular thing, mate. Loving it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how many beers we had at 100 IBU, but yeah, most of the beers we had would have been like 50, 60, 70. Yeah. And it's great to brew some West Coast stuff. And hopefully in a couple of months, we're going to be brewing a very special West Coast IPA as well. So bitterness is coming back. Black IPA is coming back. You heard the news, Bradders?
No way. Really?
The Bipper comeback's happening.
Wow.
I'm working on an article for Good Beer Hunting all about it at the moment and diving into the history of it. The guy who invented the New England IPA also invented the Black IPA. So he invented the coolest style and the least cool style.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, I'm trying to think of a musical equivalent of that. Phil Collins.
Probably Phil Collins.
Phil
Genesis
Collins.
Being ultra cool, and then suddenly he was doing Easy Lover, which is a banger. Actually,
all Phil Collins.
Maybe True Colours is a better one.
Did you know? You probably do know this. Phil Collins is the most sampled man in rap music. How fucking weird is that?
Right?
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? Yeah. For
I'm gonna have to verify that fact.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then actually, we won't go into that. I could go down all different paths of stuff like that. The most sampled thing ever that has spawned lots of different sort of almost different genres of music, like drum and bass, for instance, and jungle, is a break, a drum break from, I think it's a 60s tune, which is known as the Amen break, and basically it's this amazing little drum break that jungle might have speeded it up a bit more. Drum and bass is kind of like the same or whatever, but this particular one sample from an old vinyl record is the thing that has spawned loads of different genres, which I always find amazing. And you can watch like documentaries about the Amen break on YouTube and elsewhere. But yeah, I wonder, like, so this guy is the guy that invented both of those styles. You've gotta have mad respect for someone that can pump out like you say, the coolest thing and the least cool thing. That's a wide ranging brain. And to have a brain that could just think of two things that are so outside of the box is great.
Well, I mean, it all comes from him as Greg Noonan, who was the Vermont Brewery and Pub, which is where John Kimmich trained. It all comes from understanding and researching British brewing, basically. All of the American sort of inventions always start coming back to Britain. And increasingly now it's more about Czech Republic and Germany and Belgium, but to start with, it was all British brewing that was exciting them. But anyway, this podcast is starting to spiral out of control, and I want to save my exciting Bipper chat for once the Good Beer Hunting article is out and people can read it. So we do have a question this week.
Wow. I thought we were drawing to the end there, Johnny. I was like, man, I went on a second ramble.
No. I made people think it was over.
Damn.
I made them think, I'm going to have to get out the bath. But no. So this week we've got a question from who's essentially the third host of this podcast at this point. And that is Sean Brewer, who's just keeping us propped up with questions. If you guys want to send in a question like Sean does, all you have to do is email a question or email a recording of a question, ideally, to craftbeerboys@gmail.com, and we promise we will read it or play it and we will answer the question. But I allowed Sean to have another one because his question is great. You ready, Bradders?
I think so.
Hi, Johnny and Brad. Sean Brewer here. Now, we all try our hardest not to be a craft beer snob. However, in the past, I must admit I've overstepped the line. For instance, on the stag do, during a game of beer pong, I refused to take part with the cups filled with a macro lager. I had to go to a nearest corner shop and find the nearest craft beer substitute I could, which was Sam Adams Boston Lager. In the end, I ended up rather drunk and realised I probably didn't need to be so particular in this instance. Do you have any similar stories where you've just perhaps overstepped the boundary and become more of a preacher than an educator? Cheers, loving beer.
So thanks, Sean. I think if you've been in craft beer for a while, we've all got stories a little bit like that. And I think it's part of the phase of getting into craft beer where you feel like you have to show your stripes and nail your colours to the mast and be like, no, I only drink independent. And it slowly sort of peters out as you realise that's not really a sustainable life choice. I've never had one quite like that. I've never got really drunk as a result of refusing to drink macro. But I've had a couple of friends who have, when we've all been organising to go for drinks, they'll all be like, don't let Johnny choose the place because otherwise we'll have to go to somewhere wanky and shit.
Great.
So I've become known as the person who's like, let's check out this, unknown brewery in the middle of nowhere that doesn't really have proper seating. And there's no food available, and we'll have to get a taxi there. So now, I was removed from the responsibility of picking places to go drink for a while.
Damn. Remove the beer expert from where to drink. You must have been a real arsehole, Johnny.
I mean, I wasn't being an arsehole. I just think like I wanted to go somewhere new and exciting, and they just wanted to go somewhere comfortable with beer.
Well, I think
with wine or
this
with
is
beer.
the thing when you're spending a bit of time with friends, especially old friends who maybe don't quite share the passion that you share. Sometimes they just want to go and have a pint of Guinness or some terrible lager, and just catch up with you, being an old buddy. And they're not into it in the same way we are. And they can't see the value, or somehow that kind of what perceived pomposity would get in the way of them just having a good old-fashioned nostalgic time. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, Johnny. Maybe it's like they don't want things to change. So,
well, I think it's that, but I think it's also just like certainly until the last couple of years in the UK, craft beer bars weren't always particularly like nice places to hang out. They were very industrial, or they were literally very industrial. Like you were sat on hard benches in cold warehouses and stuff. And it's only recently that good beers got out to a standard pub and stuff. So I think it's definitely got easier for me. Like I can suggest now places like the Old Fountain because it's a good pub. that's comfortable and there's good beer. But that was probably an exception back when my friends were like, don't let Johnny choose, please, because he'll take us to the Bermondsey Beer Mile and we'll be sat freezing our nips off.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? There's these days, I say these days, not the last year, but prior to that, we've kind of been spoilt by a whole bevy of new bars opening up and old pubs getting great beers in. The scene has really come to fruition. I would have said to the point where you could go into almost any pub, and there's going to be a can fridge which is going to have some decent stuff in it.
Yeah, I'd say like half the pubs, because the other half are tied. And you know, you might be lucky to get like, if you're really lucky, you'll get Punk IPA. If you're unlucky, you'll get like the new awful Lagunitas IPA or something. But I wouldn't buy that because it's Heineken.
I cry a little tear every time I think about Lagunitas, but hey, there we go. I'm really got a lot to add to that other than.
Well, you're not a snob at all, are you, Brad? You'll drink whatever's in a nice place, and if you can hang out with your friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. I'm less of a beer snob, and I'm more of an experiential kind of person. Well, you are as well, but you're more. I won't say discerning because we're both discerning, but you've got more of a stance, whereas I'm more like, I'm just happy to be here. I'll cool. That looks wet and it tastes nice. Yeah, give me one of those. Thank you.
That is very much your vibe. I love that. I'm Brad, and I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm like a sort of Labrador or something. I'm just happy to be out. I'm happy to be out, Johnny. Sod your old friends, Johnny. I'm always up for going to a bleak industrial estate to sample some delicious juice or some haze or some darkness. Bring it on, man. Or some sour or whatever. I'm there for you, buddy.
Thanks, man. Just before we close out this week, I just wanted to go back to Sean's comment because his final sign-off was amazing. Like where he said, examples of where you've become a preacher, not an educator. How good is that?
Preacher, not an educator.
Never be a preacher. Preaching's about faith. We don't know the answers. You're trying to convince people of something you don't know is true. Whereas an educator's like, this is the stuff we know, and I'm going to tell you it, and then you can make your own decisions off the back of it. Like, that is a wonderful way of explaining the difference between a beer geek and a beer snob.
Like it.
And you should never be a preacher. It's a really nice bit of phrasing, Sean. So thank you. I'm stealing that. You'll see that on the next Craft Beer Channel video.
Nice. It makes me think of, I'm just going to take on a slight tangent again, Johnny. Did you ever watch Nathan Barley? Yeah, so like Dan Ashcroft, the preacher man, who hated all of the idiots, the rise of the idiots, and all of this stuff. That has just made me think of Dan Ashcroft as the preacher man when he actually goes out in a preacher outfit to a thing to sort of keep his job. They dress him up like an idiot, and he becomes an idiot, which is brilliant.
There you go. That's what can happen to you.
Yeah. So anyone who hasn't seen Nathan Barley, it's on 4OD. Go and check it out. It prophesized East London essentially, well over a decade ago. Probably approaching maybe like 15 years ago. It was staying.
Yeah, I think longer than that. Yeah.
It was brilliant and hilarious. So go and check it out on 4OD.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure hanging with you, Brad. I'm glad. I'm just happy you were there.
Exactly.
Everybody else, make sure you're there on Sunday at midday for our podcast with Alex, and then join us next week. Fingers crossed for the next episode of our homebrew, though that depends if the 9 people reviewing the beer all get their videos back in time. Cheers, guys. The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer Channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer Channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeerchannel. Love and beer.